Yeah, because I can't have your friends instant messaging through the.
Well, I didn't plan that.
No, I know you don't plan it, but I'm just saying.
I didn't plan it.
I'm going to have to look further into it.
You're going to have to look.
Yeah, I don't need to have messages about christenings, who's getting baptized, are you coming to New Jersey, bar mitzvahs. It comes across here right when the show's on.
Oh, well, can you leave the chat?
I don't even want to be in the chat. What do you mean leave the chat?
Leave the chat.
It's just something else I'll have to put on my list. The only other things we have to do tonight are we're going to have a random share giveaway winner for grips. And, we've got trivia. Trivia returns.
Oh, trivia returns.
Trivia returns with a Discovering
That's
6
right.
Days by Keith Geiser. Okay, it's 6 o'clock.
It's April Fool's.
April Fool's was 3 days ago. Oh, my God. Give me strength. All right, I got to start the show. Okay?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Unbelievable. It really is like, okay, here we go. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. Tonight, I have the lovely Susie on board. Susie, here she is.
Hello.
I want to thank all of our sponsors who help make this show possible. And you probably know most of them, huh? Motion Pro, Preston Petty Products, Vinco, Racer X Magazine, Replica, MotorcycleParts.com, Full Circle Racing, the International Motocross Museum, Mike Chamberlain and High Desert Realty, and George Ackerman. George Ackerman in the Motor Barn does so much through the Motor Barn for the International Motocross Museum, and I understand he's making an extension now to the Motor Barn, so that's something you want to get a chance to see it. Mike Chamberlain, continued speedy recovery to you. Al Roof going in for surgery tomorrow. Al, all your friends are sending you their thoughts and prayers. I'm sure you're going to come out of it just fine. Durf's Cycle Shop. Thank you, Fred, for being a supporter of Vintage Motocross Q&A. And we're going to be having some videos that Fred is going to be sending in. And we're going to be showing you a little bit more about what happens there at Durf's Cycles in this week's Next Time Try This. We've got kind of interesting sent in from Steve Ellis. Let's take a look at it.
As you can see, this steering stop had broken off. Someone re-welded it. And I can tell you that the steering angle that the bars turned was far less than it should have been. So here's what I did. I rigged up a handy-dandy Wiseco degree wheel. You can use that or your Motion Pro degree wheel. Good old home store. Picked up a expansion plug, 1/4 inch all thread and some washers. Put a wire on there so you can see here. The wire is zeroed. I've aligned the front wheel perfectly. You can use laser, 2x4, string, your favorite choice of setup. So this one turns to the right. And as you can see, it stops at 52 degrees. And I've already centered it, as I said before. And to the left, it stops at 48 degrees. So I've got some grinding to do back on that steering stop. And when I do, I'll have equal distance on both sides. That's it. There's your tip.
And thank you, Vinco, for being a supporter of our show. The Moto Showcase tonight is brought to you by Preston Petty Products. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier, don't forget to keep sharing the show. We will have a random share giveaway winner a little bit later on. They're going to get a set of grips like this from Paul Standard and Preston Petty Products. They are also looking for, I think they're still looking for dealers up at Preston Petty Products. Just get over to PrestonPettyProducts.com. You'll see all the fenders that they have for sale and everything that's happening there at Preston Petty Products. Tonight's Moto Showcase bike is sent in to us by Dan Gonzalez Sr. And I am really familiar with this bike because a good friend of mine, Mark Alcorn, was the original builder of the bike. I'm going to read to you about what's going on there, and there is a lot happening. Mark Alcorn built 1974 CR250. It has a Carl Landris Honda Replica swing arm on it, has modified Racetech shocks, two-piece engine cases. It has a long rod motor with a custom spacer between the cylinder. It has modern V-force reeds. It has 1978 Honda reed valve cylinder liner with a 78 modified piston. The bike has a Husqvarna head, and let me get a good picture of the, this is what I wanted to show you right here. The bike has a Husqvarna head modified to fit, and it has a Bassani pipe, turned down hard anodized fork legs. They have Husqvarna top tubes with Racetech emulator internals. Every part of this bike was modified except for the gas tank, and I also had my hand in that gas tank. But this bike does have some absolutely incredible modifications to it, including a two-piece clutch cover where you don't have to take off the entire cover and the Kickstarter to get to the clutch. Also on the left side of the bike, you got a clear shot here of what that reed valve looks like. Also, if you look closely here, and I was talking to Mark Alcorn about this today, look closely here just in front of the engine mount. You see right here where the engine mount is? Right here on this pipe, a bung has been welded in. And what Mark did there was he put in a bung that would accept a probe. That probe goes in there when that bike is running, and it will tell you how the bike is running, whether it's running rich, whether it's running lean. This was originally set up for a Volkswagen Audi, and Mark was an incredible mechanic, and he found a way to hook this up to that bike. And his jetting specs were absolutely incredible. The bike ran phenomenally, and I've seen it in action. It's absolutely spectacular. And I want to thank Dan Gonzalez Sr. for sending that bike into us. Dan, if you get a hold of me with your address, I'll get you something. I'll get you a gift, compliments of one of our vendors. Could be something from Preston Petty. Could be something from Vinco. Get a hold of me. And thanks again, Danny, for sending that bike in. Have you ever heard of? This is kind of an interesting thing because the other day I actually thought of a motorcycle, and it was called an ATEX, A-T-T-E-X. And I got a picture of one right here. Here it is. ATEX. And I started to do a little research on it. And what I discovered was I couldn't find out anything on an ATEX. I went all over, Susie. I went through Wikipedia. I went through some mini cycle magazines and a couple of other places. Couldn't find anything on the ATEX. The only thing I did find about it is that the Coleman mini bike and the ATEX somehow crossed paths. Also, the ATEX at some point had a Sachs motor in it, like you see right here. It also had some other engines that were installed in the bike as well. This, I think, is this could be what do you call it? Not a Sachs motor, a Moto Morini. Could have been a Moto Morini engine in there as well. But I did not find a whole lot of information on the ATEX. But what I did find along the way was that they made 6x6 ATVs. Remember those? Remember these guys? The banana splits. I always laugh when I look at this because that song comes to my head. Na, 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 na. Now it's going to be in your head too. Anyway, the banana splits, they had the ATEX 6x6, but I couldn't find out much other information on the ATEX. If you do,
says he has one.
George Ackerman has an ATEX?
That's what he says.
Very interesting. Maybe he could tell us a little bit more about it.
He said a Saxonette engine?
A Saxonette. Yeah. Okay.
Way to go, George.
Maybe we'll get a little bit more information on that and we'll have it back on the program in the future. But yeah, the ATEX, did you know, is up next. And did you know, this is kind of interesting. It involves Bob Hanna, as with most things in motocross for the majority of the time from 1975 to 1985. It seemed that almost everything in America did have something to do with Bob Hanna. Now, Terry Good and the International Motocross Museum are doing something special, and you are encouraged to send in any question you like to Bob Hanna. Anything. It could be anything at all. You send it in to go to the International Motocross Museum website. You'll find out a little bit more about that. But I'm going to read you here what Bob, they sent in a question. And what it says here from Bob is, my professional motocross career started one day in 1975 at Saddleback Park. It was a real pivotal day where I just got a big break that helped me launch my career. I went to Saddleback for a CMC Sunday with my 250 Husky. It just happened to be the same day Suzuki was introducing their RMs. And this is a real interesting story. Bob goes on to talk about it. And he says that he did get a ride on the RM, and the next week he was wheel to wheel with Billy Grassi, Marty Smith, and Tommy Croft. He couldn't believe how fast they were going. It was hard to keep up with them, but he did take a third that day behind Marty Smith and Tommy Croft. Anyway, Bob goes on in detail about that day at Saddleback and riding that Suzuki. And it's a lengthy story, and it's really good. Not something you're going to see just any place. Go to the International Motocross Museum. You can hear more about that. And speaking of the International Motocross Museum, we're going to run a little commercial here. We'll be right back with more Vintage Motocross Q&A.
I'm Don Kadowski, and you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. Don't go anywhere.
Motocross struck America, coming from Europe like a lightning bolt, striking the hearts and minds of people all across the country and the world. Battles of intense racing and cutting rivalries with loyalty to brands and heroes intensified as years of blood, sweat, and dirt flew through the minds of those memories of champions as they wrestled their machines through almost impossible tracks. But where are those past champions? And where are their bikes? Terry Good, an ex-pro motocross racer, has made it his life mission to honor these heroes and the bikes they rode to stardom.
We raced, we rode, we lived and breathed motocross. Go back in time and relive those moments, now preserved for the first time ever in the world's first museum dedicated to the history of motocross. Our new building is in the gate. Help us get a great start and you can be part of history. Go to internationalmotocrossmuseum.org and become a part of our team.
Motocrossmuseum.org. Get over there, buy yourself some swag. They've got shirts, hats, beautiful posters, and so much more. The International Motocross Museum.org. Hey, Suze.
Yes,
You excited about the International Motocross Museum?
I am.
Would you be one to move to Chicago?
Yes, I will.
You would.
Yes.
You know, it's extremely cold there in the winter and brutally hot in the summer.
I've done cold before.
You have. I know you have. So you're on board with the whole IMM thing?
Yes.
All right, good. I just wanted to get you in public saying that you are
So
all about.
They're all witnesses now.
Now they are all witnesses
To
to your agreement.
yes.
All right. What's it worth? This is brought to you by Full Circle Racing. Thank you, Tom McAllister, Full Circle Racing, for your years of support here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. What's it worth? This is the part of the show where I encourage you, the viewers at home, to guess the price of the bike we are showing you right now. This bike was just sold a couple of days ago, actually, at the end of March. I don't exactly have the date. Anyway, it was sold in Canada, and it's a 1979 Mako GS 440 that was reportedly refurbished 1 year prior to seller's acquisition. This is, of course, you, the viewers at home. I want you to guess the price of this bike, but it was in Canada. Anyway. It has replacement decals and plastic components under the current ownership. It's powered by a 438cc single-cylinder paired with a 5-speed transmission, equipped with a black vinyl seat, upswept expansion chamber, has leading axle forks, wire spoke wheels, gold finish rims, and high-mounted fenders. Works performed in preparation for the sale is said to have involved changing the air filter and the transmission oil, as well as cleaning the carburetor. How bold of you to do those three things before selling the bike. This GS 440 is offered at no reserve in Ontario, Canada, and it was on Bring a Trailer. You can see the condition is pretty nice on this bike. It is a 440. It is a GS, which is the Enduro model. How much do you think this bike sold for in US dollars? Now, You know what? Okay. Yeah. I got to ask in US dollars. What do you think this bike sold for? 3,000? 4,000? 4,500? This bike sold for $5,293 Canadian. 5,293 Canadian, which makes it $3,900 US. 3,900 US. Wonder who got the closest without going over.
Wow.
Now, also, not to confuse everybody, it did say on the Bring a Trailer thing that it sold for $3,900. But was that $3,900 Canadian? Because if that's the case, then the bike sold for $2,873. So anybody that guesses between $2,800 and $5,200 is immediately a winner on Vintage Motocross Q&A. Okay, and Tom McAllister still got some great specials going on up there on the CZ brake plate, just $179. If you want it as is with the CZ logo, if not, get it for $169. This is the big moment that we all have been waiting for, Susie. Trivia returns to Vintage Motocross Q&A. The winner will have an opportunity to win this book, Discovering 6 Days by Keith Geisner. Keith Geisner, of course, the famed writer of Finding Number 49. And now this great read, Discovering 6 Days. And here comes the question. Put on your thinking caps. This is a call-in segment. I'm going to put the number up here right now. The number is 925-234-8181. That's 925-234-8181. That is Susie's personal line. Do not use it for anything other than trivia. Do not call late at night with heavy breathing. Here is the trivia question. There's been a lot of talk about the Lawrence brothers and Chad Reed and Australians in Supercross, but here's the question, guys. Who was the first Australian to podium in a U.S. Supercross race? Who was the first Australian to podium in a USA Supercross race? You call Susie right now at 925-234-8181. We'll have the winner back here in just a few minutes. The show is going to continue. Susie will be taking your calls. What do we have next here? Oh, This Week in Motocross History. This Week in Motocross History is, of course, brought to you by Racer X, available on your newsstand now and also online. And we've got another one from Bob Hanna this week. It was 1977. The first night of the Potomac Supercross goes off with then state-of-the-art Silverdome. Bob Hurricane Hanna took the win aboard his Yamaha ahead of Suzuki's Tony DeStefano and Team Honda's Jim Pomeroy. Husqvarna's Kent Harrington was fourth, while Honda's Marty Smith, winner of the first Pontiac Supercross the previous year, was fifth. Guess who was riding a Penton that night? You ever hear of a Penton in a Supercross race? You never hear of them, right? Great bike. Our own Don Kadowski. And I call him our own because he tunes in every week for the show. But yeah, Rokon Don Kadowski was on a Penton that night in 1977 in the Pontiac Superdome. 1984. And in what was still just a very big deal, and people were hoping it was an April Fool's joke at the time, the last AMA National at Saddleback goes off. And it's a sweet day by Honda riders, David Bailey in the 500, Ron Lachine in 250, and Johnny O'Mara in 125. Within a few weeks, the organization that owns the land, the Irvine Company, shuts it down due to insurance costs and also their hopes of developing the land. Cruelly, Saddleback Park still sits there, unridden upon and unbuilt upon till this day. 1993. At the old Memorial Stadium in Charlotte, Team Honda's Jeremy McGrath continued his dominance of the 1993 AMA Supercross Championship. The rookie took another win ahead of Yamaha's Jeff Egg and defending series champion Jeff Stanton. Kawasaki's Mike Kudrowski was fourth, and Yamaha's hometown hero Damon Bradshaw was fifth. We are going to be back in just a minute with a bunch more Vintage Motocross Q&A, and we are going to have our trivia winner coming up.
I'm Brock Glover, and you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. We'll be right back.
Hey, it's Joe Abbate for Vintage Motocross Q&A. When you're replacing a cylinder or a gasket or doing a top end on your bike, many times it's very, very difficult to get to the nuts that are on the base. And you want to be sure that you torque those evenly whenever you change a top end. Motion Pro has come up with this great tool. It's the torque adapter, okay? You can put any size wrench in there and you can tighten it up. On the back is a 3/8 drive. You can put your torque wrench in there, get the wrench on the nut that's on the base of your cylinder, and make sure everything is torqued evenly. This is a great tool. I have one in the shop. We use it all the time. It comes with instructions as well. Go see your local dealer or get to motionpro.com. And don't forget, go over to Vintage Motocross Q&A to get a 20% discount on all Motion Pro tools. All right, we do have a winner of our trivia contest. Let me get back to my slides here where I have all the trivia answers. This is Joe Abbate. You're live at Vintage Motocross Q&A. Who am I speaking to?
Pete Hansen. How you doing, Joe?
Pete Hansen, thank you for joining us tonight. And our question was, who was the first Australian to podium in a U.S. Supercross?
Jeff Lees.
Jeff Leesk is the right answer. And I think I've got a nice picture of Jeff Leesk right here.
I think he knows the year too.
Yeah, did you know the year?
Wow.
Did you know the year by any chance, Pete?
87, I think.
It was 1987, and it is Jeff Leesk. And we've got a good picture of him right here. I was able to spend some time with Jeff down in Australia last August when I was down there. Jeff Leesk. He's doing really, really well. And you know what else I wanted to bring to the attention of the viewers at home? Not only was he the first guy to podium at a Supercross here in America, but Jeff Leesk was vice world champion in 1989. He finished behind David Thorpe and ahead of George Joe Abbate. So that's really, was it Thorpe? Yeah, Thorpe was in first. He finished right behind Thorpe. Unbelievable.
That's a lot of heavy company right there.
Yeah, it is. It certainly is, Pete. So he was quite an accomplished rider. Thanks for playing along. Susie is going to get your address. Oh, she's got your address? And we're going to send you a copy of Discovering 6 Days. Okay, Pete?
Thanks. Man, that'll be just wonderful.
All right, Pete. You take care.
It's always good. It's always good to talk to you, Joe.
Thank you so much, Pete.
Love the show.
I appreciate you watching. Take care.
You betcha.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, sign the whole thing again, and we'll get you. We'll get Pete a copy of Discovering 6 Days, and we will just continue on with the show. We went through this week in motocross history. We're at the finish line. Brought to you by ReplicaMotorcycleParts.com. And this man right here, this handsome, dashing devil, Paul Parkinson Sr., ReplicaMotorcycleParts.com. You've heard me talk about so many different items from Paul Parkinson Sr. Here's some right here: chain guides, chain rollers. We also have some. Not only the rollers, but we have different rubber parts that are so important for restorations and things like that. But of course, one of our favorite, Susie's back on with us right here, one of our favorite things that Paul happened to come up with is this. This is the silencer for the 1973 and 1974 Honda Elsinore CR250 and 125. This piece right here is an exact replica of the original. It is perfect. You cannot tell the difference. It is available from ReplicaMotorcycleParts.com. And a whole bunch of other stuff too. Got gears coming up. I understand we're talking about some real rare aftermarket cylinders and heads coming up in the not too distant future as well. So be sure to get over to ReplicaMotorcycleParts.com. Scott Burnworth's race, that first round at Paris was on March 23rd. That went off without a hitch. It was really a great time. We got Verona coming up in May 5th. Mark the calendars for that. Also, the Missouri VMX, Missouri Vintage Motocross Series. The Misfit MX Round 1 that happens in Amoret, Missouri. That happens coming up this weekend, Saturday, April 6th and Sunday, April 7th. I understand there's camping overnight, and there's a class for just about everybody, including mini bikes and modern bikes. What else is happening here? South Carolina Vintage National. That happens on April 19th and 20th. Go to victory-sports.com to learn more about that. And right here in my home state, it's coming up. This brings out a lot of people every year. The CZ World Championship Race. This is happening up in Sacramento. It's happening in Marysville, actually, not Sacramento. Vintage Motocross Weekend. That's the 26th, 27th, and 28th of April. They have a Facebook page. Go over to the CZ World Championship page on Facebook. And it's kind of sad news, but it could be worse. Got a little message here from Jeff Ward today. If you go on Instagram, you'll learn that Jeff had some brain surgery. He had a tumor taken out. It was not malignant. He's doing better. He is alert. But if you're on Instagram, go over and drop Jeff Ward a message. I'm sure he would love to hear from you. That's Jeff Ward. You're in our prayers, Jeff. Hang in there, Woody. Anybody want some shirts? We've got them here at Vintage Motocross Q&A, just like the one I'm wearing. They also come in white, black. We can actually make them in any color. We can make you a hoodie, long sleeve, or short. Get a hold of me, and we'll get you any type of shirt you want. Vintage Motocross Q&A sponsorship opportunities are available. Did you see the post I put up last week? I think we reached over 100,000 people in 80 days. Over 100,000 people. It was our biggest quarter ever. And it continues to grow. One more week, I'm going to try it again with the Vinco bag. If you are watching Supercross, go on the Vintage Motocross Q&A page on Saturday. Put in your top. I'll tell you what. Give me 3 in a row. Give me 3 in a row in the top 5. It could be 3 through 6. It could be 1 through 3. Give me 3 in a row. Win a Vinco bag just like this.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Is that a good idea, Suze?
I like that.
I'm glad
But
you were going to suggest that.
I was.
All right. Well, you're back on.
I am.
You see yourself right there?
I do.
What other shirts can you make, Sue? Tell the viewers at home. Any other shirts? White, black, what
I
else?
can make any color, any style shirt. I can make hoodies, long sleeves, short sleeves. I can make
With the Vintage Motocross logo across the front.
Yeah.
And you know what? Now that we're talking about it, what if they had their logo and maybe you wanted that in the back? Could you do that too?
I could.
Okay.
I could do it.
What about Gino?
What about him?
The people like to see him at the end of the show.
Oh, it's
This is it.
It's too early
Too early for what?
to bring Gino out.
No, this is it.
Okay.
I want to thank everybody for watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. I want to thank all of our sponsors. And Jordan, Chelsea, you're not with us every week anymore, but you're in our hearts and you've helped make this show what it is today. Gina! Come on, Jane. That's it for Vintage Motocross Q&A for Wednesday, April 3rd. Thank you for joining us. Congratulations to Pete Hansen. You are this week's winner for the Discovering 6 Days book. And thank you, Pete, thank you, Keith Geisner, for giving us that book to give away every week. And that really wraps it up this time at Vintage Motocross Q&A. Gino, you got anything else you want to say? No? Okay. See you next time. Don't forget to keep sharing the show, too.